Welcome to Proven and Probable, where we deliver mining insights and bullion sales in the form of physical delivery, offshore depositories, and private blockchain distributed ledger technology.
Joining us for a conversation is Todd Hilditch, the CEO of RLYGF Gold. Mr. Hilditch, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Maurice, for having me.
Glad to have you on the program to share the opportunity before us in RLYGF Gold. Before we delve into company specifics, Mr. Hilditch, please introduce us to RLYGF Gold and the opportunity the company presents to the market.
Thanks, Maurice. And RLYGF's early stage company. We've been around for all of about 6 months. We've built the company around the people, the projects, and the ability to finance. All of our team, whether it be at a management level or a director level, have had success in building companies and ultimately either selling them or taking them to production. So we're excited about RLYGF going forward.
RLYGF Gold presents a number of virtues to the market that merit speculators' attention. Let's introduce your property bank, which is strategically located in Elephant Country, an absolute top jurisdiction for exploration and mining. Sir, take us to Nevada and get us acquainted with your projects.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Nevada is an unbelievable jurisdiction for not only the exploration because of its gold endowment, but also for other opportunities that have not been discovered. The state itself produces, there's a give or take about 30 mines in the state, produce about 5 million ounces a year. And we wanted to go to an area that has time tested and true. And we decided to stick with Nevada, which is where our experience is. So our two projects are, as you say, one is definitely in Elephant Country, up in some of the major trends. And we also have a second project that we're very excited about in Tocop.
Provide us with some historical context and share how RLYGF Gold acquired its projects.
What we've learned over years and years is experience and relationships. We were fortunate enough to make a decision to go for these two projects because of introductions and long-standing relationships that I've had for 20 years in the state, everything from geological to legal to permitting, et cetera. So we took an opportunity to look at the big picture when we were deciding what we wanted to bring into RLYGF. Our first notion was find some ounces, give us some shoulders to begin with. But we also recognized that in the state of mining, there's sort of three stages: the exploration, the development, and then the actual production. And we felt that if we were going to be in one of the toughest sectors in the world in terms of risk reward, we decided to go at the very beginning of the life cycle, which is where most investors and shareholders would get the biggest kick. And that is finding the gold and the exploration side. So we've decided on these two projects, and in particular with our first one, Tocop, it came through a relationship, and our second one up at Pipeline West, Clipper, also came through a relationship. So it's all about friends, family, etc.
Well, now that we have some background on the projects, let's go on site. Sir, take us to Southern Nevada and introduce us to the company's flagship Tocop Gold Project.
Yeah, Tocop we're extremely excited about. Our geologist who leads our technical efforts, Charles Sulfrian, I have been with for 15, 18 years, and he is really excited about this project. We expect to be drilling in about a week to 10 days, early part of April. This project came to us as a result of some work almost 10 years ago with a company that changed direction for lots of reasons. And this asset was sort of on their balance sheet. When we were introduced to it, we were immediately excited because it had some historical drill holes, but not enough to move it forward at the current time. And when we look at some of the drill results and sample results and the size of the property and what it was akin to, it gave us a real excitement level. And in literally 6 months, we've gone from sort of dating the project, getting to know it, through to aggressively, including this morning, adding a technical director or advisory committee member, I should say, who has experience in this type of deposits. So the Tocop is something that is our sort of 1A at the moment. We're going to get moving on that. We've got some samples still to come. We've got drilling to come. And we expect reasonably good results out the gate. It's a shear hosted vein type deposit, and we see it on surface. So with that in play, we'll be able to get a much better handle on our development post this first drill program.
I see that there's a comparison with Fort Knox. Is there something you can share with us there?
Yeah, it's really about the style of the mineralization. Shear hosted veins at surface, and it's been certainly tested at Fort Knox, up at Dublin Gulch and Eagle as well, with Victoria Gold, and as you mentioned, Fort Knox, which is Kinross. In fact, the gentleman that we have brought on the advisory committee this morning has worked at both of those projects. So it's not a typical project geology that you would see in Nevada. It's something a little bit more akin to those two projects up in Alaska, but all the signatures are there, so we're looking to prove that to be a good opportunity for us.
Exploration is a research and development exercise. I'm interested in hearing how Raleigh Gold arrived at its thesis, which has given the company confidence on the upside and making additional discoveries and increasing shareholder value. Please walk us through the genetic model and then the exploration model.
Well, it's interesting. The genetic model is similar to what I've mentioned, where you get to a project, certainly if there hasn't been enough drilling to identify a resource, you get to a project, you look for the signatures, something that a geologist can see a little twinkle in his eye and say, okay, hang on, I see an opportunity because of this. And it's through that genetic opportunity, which is where I believe shareholders get their biggest upside, is on the exploration and the finding of gold and silver. So it's through that genetic process that it leads to production to development and then to production. In this particular situation, our guys are very excited about the opportunity because of the signature that they see. And so with that in mind, we're going to move forward. It's not like we have a model that's different than any of the other juniors. You do as much due diligence on sampling, on geophysics, on work to identify where your drill program would start. And then sometimes you call it a Hail Mary, sometimes you call it the best educated guess, but you take all that information and dump it into a model, which Charlie Sulfurian has worked 22, 23 years with Barrick, has 40 plus years of experience. He's been everything from a chief chemist at Barrick to a chief geologist. So we place a lot of faith in Charlie's experience, along with gentlemen such as Dick Silito, who came to the project, along with Ted Wilton, who we've added today. And you really just do as much homework as you can, and then you drill in the best educated spots. And with that, it leads to second iteration, third iterations of drilling.
With regards to the historical resource, how will Raleigh Gold move forward with achieving an NI 43-101 resource, and in what category?
Well, we're early stage for that at this point. There's only been 20 drill holes, so we are going to be adding, we'll be doubling that in terms of total drill holes. And it's really from that. This is one of those systems where it's not going to take hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of holes of drilling before you can identify a resource, sort of in an envelope. This is a near surface, shear hosted vein set. And it shouldn't be too much of a stretch for us in a reasonably decent time. I can't identify that to you today, but it's not going to be 3-4 years out before we could put a resource together. It'll be much sooner than that. I would hope in the next 12 to 18 months, we could look at saying, okay, we've got enough information to do that. That would come in most likely the form of a measured and indicated and inferred resource. And interesting thing about these systems and all systems, what you see at surface is really what you're not what you're after. It's what's below and what event brought that gold to surface or within an area that you've drilled and you found it. It didn't come from the sky, so we've got to find out how it came there, the plumbing system, if you will. So it'll all depend on all of those factors, Maurice, before we could put a resource together. But that's our goal.
Leaving the Tocop Gold Project, sir, please introduce us to the second compelling project, the Pipeline West Clipper Project.
Yeah, Pipeline is a well-known area. Now we're talking elephant country. Nevada Mines, which is the joint venture between Newmont and Barrick, has quite a complex out there with Cortez. You've got 4 Mile, numerous other deposits that make part of this endowment of gold. I think there's 40 million plus ounces of past production and reserve resource that's in this area. There's lots of opportunities that we still think exist. Our project is off to the west by about 5 kilometers, give or take. And, there has not been, in our opinion, enough work on the project, which is one of the reasons why we picked it up through a relationship as well, in trying to identify, an opportunity to get into the same type of geological formation as they do. Recently, Barrick announced that they feel that there's great opportunity out in this area, up from Robertson south down through the Cortez mining complex, and we are on the peripheral to that. So I think that probably excited a lot of junior companies, and we're certainly excited about ours.
Can you walk us through the genetic and exploration model, please?
Yeah, this one's a little tougher to maybe nail down at this given point, except for the fact that with Barrick in production, sort of on the eastern edges to where we're located, they produce from a formation called the Wenban. There's another company off to our northwest, Ridgeline Minerals, who we have a lot of respect for. They've tapped into the Wenban. We sort of sit between the two of them. So our expectations are the same host rock that's being produced is on our land, or in our land, I should say, makes up part of it. And it would be our goal to sort of find that. Now, to date, there hasn't been enough drilling beyond 250 meters or 700 or 800 feet, if you will, on our project. And that's one of the goals is, genetically, let's find and then focus in on where we want to have that initial drill program. And that would be through not as much so sampling is up there as maybe some geophysics, and then nail down an opportunity and drill holes as to where to try to prove our model. To be open and honest, we're not going to get to this project until we've gotten knee deep or waist deep into toe cop in our drilling. At this point, we're focusing on getting the toe cop drilling going, and then Charlie and his team will then have an opportunity to move up, hopefully in the late spring, summer, when there's definitely no snow up in that area, to start the process.
Now, before we leave the project sites, what type of activity is currently being conducted, and what are the plans, respectively, for each in 2021?
For both projects. Well, we've got drilling at Tocop, and then out here at Pipeline. It'll begin with some initial review, data review. We've already started that, obviously. We've had the project for about 6 months. But it'll be more of filtering through information that's important, in terms of helping us to identify a drill program. So there'll be a lot of desktop work and then field work, and then Charlie's team will identify the next steps. That's a little earlier stage on the profile at this point for us.
Leaving the project site, let's discuss some important topics germane to the projects. Are your projects 100% owned, or do they have any earning options or with any reversionary interests?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and one that every CEO wrestles with. Our projects are 100% under option to us. My feeling over the last 20 years in this industry, and I'm not saying it's the right one, a lot of people have great success in having a joint venture model. Our opinion all the way along has been, this is a difficult sector. I mean, you're trying to find little yellow stuff, gold or silver, hundreds of feet to thousands of feet below the surface. So if we're able with our people to identify good locations, if we're able to have good projects, and we're able to fund these projects because of the sort of three-legged stool of people, projects, and money, I don't necessarily want to share that upside. I'll go if we're wrong and we're not successful, which in this industry, the odds are tough. We've had success, fortunately, in the past, but I don't necessarily want to share that love, that risk, if you will. So we own them 100%, and or with a lease option to purchase them 100%. And until such time as that model changes, I'm going to stick with it. It works for us.
We're going to get into some numbers later in this discussion, but from a capital expenditure standpoint, how is infrastructure on your projects?
It's good. I mean, obviously in Nevada, you've got lots of undulations of geography, and there's some locations in the state that some may not ever get drilled just due to topography. Where we are down in Tocop, we're in good shape. I would argue that to date, we haven't identified all the drill holes we're going to want to put in, but to date, we've been successful at getting permitted for about 95% of what we wanted. So that's very good, and very good access, whether it be through Tonopah or through Beatty, so that's good from that standpoint. And then up at Pipeline West, Clipper, similarly, you've got good access, with the Barrick production off to our east side. There's lots of infrastructure, no hindrances to get onto the project, very accessible.
I think you just alluded to it. You're fully permitted, or you said 95%, is that correct?
No, we're fully permitted for the work that we're about to do at Tocop. We've received our BLM approval on our notice level drilling. We have a combination of private and public land at Tocop. So from a standpoint of getting permitting, it's usually about a 2-week process, and we successfully received that. That allowed us to start the movement to getting drill rigs out there in about a week and a half.
Is the ultimate goal for Raleigh Gold to build a mine or arbitrage?
That's the end all question. So every single junior, which we include ourselves in that grouping, will tell you that the intent is to build a mine. That's a very difficult thing and a very expensive thing. I'm happy to say, and particularly with the group of folks we have involved with us, that our goal today is 100% to stick exactly with what I just said. I mean, we will take this far enough down the line that if we make a decision to go to production, touch wood, and if we're lucky enough to find enough ounces, we have the ability through some of our directors from a permitting, William Lamb has taken a project through to production, a different sector, but we have the ability, and I think we have the financial capability and supporters to be able to support that mode. Typically, though, you're going to get to a point where somebody bigger, if you're successful, will come along and tap you on the shoulder. And, we're open to that concept, because if it's good for the shareholders, which would 100% vote if someone came along and said, "You've done a great job, now get out of our way, we want to take this to production," we would look at it 100%. And ultimately, the shareholders have that decision.
We've discussed the good. Let's address the bad. What can go wrong, and what are your action plans to mitigate that wrong?
Well, at this stage, we're just getting going. So, there's difficulties at a drill, as an example. If you got watered out on a particular drill, or the drilling conditions were difficult, the rocks didn't agree with the drill bit, those kind of things are certainly out of our control. Those would, be bad, but certainly things that we could work around, or the nasties, if you will. That said, the real only issues that we have today would relate to, if the gold markets pulled back to a point where funding was difficult, all of these kind of forward-looking statements that could be a problem. I mean, other jurisdictions worldwide certainly have those issues with governmental interference, et cetera, but we, obviously don't have that issue down in the United States and or in Nevada. So I'm not skirting your question. I'm just suggesting that at this point, the negatives that we could encounter, the real big hindrances, we don't have in front of us yet. And it would really relate to markets, gold price, ability to finance, ability to get drill rigs. Those are the kind of things.
Fair enough. Switching gears, let's discuss the people responsible for increasing shareholder value. Mr. Hilditch, please introduce us to your board of directors and management team, and what skill sets do they bring to Raleigh Gold?
Well, we've been very careful from day one with the inception of Riley, not necessarily knowing exactly which direction we were going to take the company at onset. We now have a much clearer picture on the exploration side. But we have a set of individuals that I believe tick all of the boxes of different experiences, starting with William Lamb, who's our chairman. He's got 25 plus years in the mining sector, background metallurgist, has had an amazing and successful track record, worked with the Lundin group of companies, was the CEO of Lucara Diamonds, was involved and has responsibility in finding some of the largest diamonds that have ever been found in the world. In Africa. So he's got a great wealth of experience crossing from technical, but also onto the market side and raising capital. We've got Brian McKenzie, who has been with me for forever. He's a CFO. He's been with me in all of our other companies, which we can get to in a minute. A great experience from a financial standpoint. Cindy Laval, an attorney at Gowlings, also very well seasoned securities attorney, has had great successes and is very well respected. So she would round out a legal side. We've recently brought on, Richard DeLong, who's a permitting expert, has worked with the majors and worked with groups such as our size. I've worked with Rich in the past, so we've got a permitting angle that we've got, covered off. So we've done, I think, a great job of rounding out our board and folks that are going to be helping us, going forward.
Who is Todd Hilditch, and what makes him qualified for the task at hand?
Now that's a loaded question. So in the, for the last 20, 25 years, I've been involved in the mining sector and the public company sector. Again, the mining space is very difficult. One of the things that I'm very fortunate to say is we've had successes in every one of the companies that we have put together. And I'm not saying they're all home runs, they're not all triples, they're not all doubles, but the good news is in our sector, if you can find a project, we've had success in lithium in the early days in 2010. We sold out to the world's largest. Our company at the time was Solaris Lithium. We've worked in, I've started a company that was involved in nickel, which is still ongoing in Cote d'Ivoire. We've had other successes in the uranium space. So we haven't only been gold, but we've had a smattering of really good sort of sectors and opportunities that have turned into or are turning into something. So I'd like to say that if I bring anything to the table whatsoever, it's the smart folks that are working with us that'll take this company to a better success. But we've stuck with it. We do what we say we're going to do. We're prudent with our money. We do as much homework as we can, and if I'm leading that process and trying to steer in some directions, maybe that's part of what I do. But I just like to think that the market it would be supportive of us, because of sort of the successes we've had in the past. So. I'm only the guy that's wearing the hat. Everybody else that's wearing any sort of hat or cloth in our company has success. And really, I can only suggest that it's their success that makes me look better at times.
How about boots on the ground? Who do you have on your technical team?
Yeah, so Charlie Solfrian would lead that. Charlie, as mentioned, spent 23 years with Barrick, another 15 years with Western States Minerals. He was involved early stage in some of the sampling, which led to the discovery of eventually what's now Gold Strike. So from a technical background, he leads. He's hired members of his team to work with. We do rely, as particular with adding a technical advisory committee member today, fellows such as Ted Wilton. We've done our homework with regards to talking with Dr. Dick Silito, who is world-renowned geologist and certainly knows this type of system. We've had numerous Zoom and calls with him, and we believe that he feels there's a great opportunity here. So from a technical standpoint, led by Charlie, but supported by many.
Let's get into some numbers. Sir, please provide us with the capital structure for Raleigh Gold.
This is probably one of the more proud elements of our infancy. We have 25 million shares issued and out, fully diluted, which would include another 10 million is made up of warrants at 40 cents and a small amount of options. So fully diluted would be 35 million. We have kept that in check specifically for the purposes of growing the company and adding value. In the situation that we're in, now, if we have some success, we may be able to get those warrants exercised within our particular group. And the good news is too, we were able to do our our property transactions without issuing a single share of stock. So that's helped. We're not worried about selling in the market and that type of thing. So we're in good shape on the structure.
You said that modestly, but I want to make sure everyone fully understands here. Give us the fully diluted again one more time.
35 million, fully diluted.
That's amazing.
Only 25 million issued and outstanding at this very moment.
It just doesn't get better than that. All right.
But Maury, why that is, sorry to interrupt you, why that is the group that made up the private placement that we did in October. There are, of all of the folks that are involved, there's maybe only 5 or 6 people of that new shareholder group that I haven't been involved with over the last 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 2 years of doing business with them. So it's a unique scenario, and I'm very happy that the folks that make up that shareholder group have supported me, and I would hope that the only reason why they continue to support is because, again, we do what we say we're going to do. We're prudent with our money. Everything doesn't work out, but you've got to be straight up and honest with folks and say, hey, we're going to drill for gold. And you know what? It's hard to find it, but if we do, we're going to be successful. If we don't, we'll pivot and do everything we can to make sure that we can try to keep your investment as whole as we can. So I think that's one of the reasons why we have the ability of the structure that we do.
You alluded to it, but how much cash and cash equivalents do you have?
Yeah, so we raised $3 million once we took care of a lot of the project payments and getting the infrastructure up and running. We're a little over $2 million, which is plenty for our first initial drill program. We're using core only at TOCOP. With success, we will raise either through the exercise of warrants or potentially in the market, that's to be determined, additional capital. Once we get a better handle on what we're seeing, that's the opportunity to raise more capital.
What is your burn rate?
That's a little tricky too, because we're just building out our team, especially down in Nevada. But I would guess on a sort of regular year, once we're up and sort of settled in, our corporate burn rate would be in the probably 450,000 Canadian per annum. And if you include the Nevada sort of team and grouping, which may grow, I won't shrink, but it may grow. I would argue if you include that, we're probably in the $600,000 to $700,000 range. But that's still to be determined.
How much debt do you have?
0.
And who are the major shareholders?
Well, management is about 20%, so we have skin in the game. We do have 2 institutions that I'm proud that took a toehold in our private placement. Extract Capital, as well as Paul Stevens with Stevens Investment Management. Both groups have supported the junior and bigger space, medium term and larger companies. So, we've got great toehold positions there, and then the remainder would be in high net worth, friends, family type of investors that have been with us for a long time.
What is the float?
That's a good question. In theory, it's everything but the 20% that management owns. So that would take you in a 18 million share type thing, 17 million share. I don't believe that to be a real float. I think the folks that are supporting us are longer term. You've noticed that since we became trading and with 4-month hold, it traded up to 60 cents on only a few shares, which which shouldn't have really been there. But since we've come back, I don't know, there's maybe been a few 100,000, maybe 250,000 shares sold in the last couple months since our 4-month restrictions have come off. So that's a pretty good indication that we've got pretty sticky investors if only a couple 100,000 of 15 million have come out.
Yeah, that's pretty good to hear there. Strong.
So the float, it's a hard question to answer because in theory it's like everybody else's float, but in practicality, I think it's much tighter than that.
Are there any redundant assets on the books that we should know about?
None. These are our only two.
Are there any?
For now.
For now, that's fine. Okay. Are there any change of control fees? And if yes, what is the compensation?
Not at this point. But if there are management agreements that get put in place, they would be industry standard, probably in the 18-month to 24-month range if and when instituted.
Is management charging a consultant fee for any services?
All of our management run off of consultancy. So within that G&A or burn rate are everything from our senior management team through our geological team. We, for a lot of reasons, we run it through consultancy versus employment.
In closing, multi-layered question. What is the next unanswered question for Raleigh Gold? When can we expect a response, and what determines success?
Well, we've sort of alluded to some of those. The reality is the drill bit is the truth serum. And for us, we're in a position where that truth serum is starting in a couple of weeks, early part of April for drilling. So I would expect, and I'm guessing here, the labs have been tremendously under stress of work and a little bit slower than I think most of us in our sector would like. But we're in a position that we'll probably get the first set of drill results out, I'm guessing, and this is a forward-looking statement, 100% would be sometime in probably June, maybe May, late May, but early June. So, those are the things that sort of, they don't keep me up at night. It is what it is. We'll get the drilling done, we'll get it to the lab, and then we'll get it to the market. So that's really, it's pretty straightforward. There's nothing that keeps me up at night worrying about Riley or the going forward period. Having two teenage boys and that's what keeps me up at night, not Riley.
All right, last question, sir, and that is, what did I forget to ask?
Nothing really. I think, if I were to maybe say, and I alluded to that on a comment, we're not necessarily going to stop at Tocop and Pipeline West and Clipper. If there's an opportunity that comes along that is a bigger picture and would add value to our company and an acquisition or of property or otherwise, we would look at that. It's still premature, I think, for us to be, thinking about 6-12 months down the road, just due to what's in front of us at the current moment. But that would be probably the only thing we didn't touch on, and it's tough to talk to, without a little bit more time, energy, and information.
Mr. Hilditch, if somebody wants to learn more about Raleigh Gold, please share the contact information.
Sure. My email address is first initial T and then Hilditch, HILDITCH at RYLGoldcorp.com. Website, RYLGoldcorp.com, obviously. My direct contact number at the office is 604-443-3831. If I'm not available, I typically don't wait more than a couple hours to be able to return a call, or worst case within a day. Happy to talk to anybody about our prospects, happy to talk to anybody about our company, the people. We're an open book and encourage any calls.
Give us that phone number one more time, sir.
604-443-3831.
Mr. Hilditch, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Wishing you and Raleigh Gold the absolute best, sir.
Thank you so much for the time today.
The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.